Kalimera! Yep, more ancient Greek today. Now, why was the Greek phalanx so effective against the Persians? Remember? There's the phalanx with the overlapping shields, helmets, 6-foot spears. Because the guy behind the shield, the hoplon, the shield, is called a hoplite, right? Infantry guy, heavy infantry. See the greaves over here underneath the shield itself, these spears, the helmet. Very hard to punch your way through something like this. And as you can tell, it's kind of an offensive weapon. Hey, and look what you got over here. Our little pelteds guys. Always like the pelteds. This guy's like Thracian. Not sure where this guy's from. Probably local yokel. So here we are. We've got hoplites in a phalanx. Hoplite, Greek infantry guy. Of course, out on the sea, we have a trireme. Tri meaning three. 3 decks of rowers. Now, who got to row these things? A lot of people think slaves row a trireme. Nope, not slaves. You pay these guys. And, of course, the place you want's up top. You really don't want to be a guy on the bottom. Well, think about it. Do you see a toilet there? Nope. And sweating, and it's kind of hot, and the breeze and all this other kind of thing. Yeah, you definitely want to be up towards the top, but the new guy always gets the bottom. Welcome to the ancient world, man. It's not all roses and bunnies. Now, of course, a trireme, if you only that guy in the bottom, so they smash into each other. It's very hard to sink a trireme. They're very buoyant. They're hard to sink. You kind of have to smash them in half by ramming. See the ram over here? Or you set them on fire or something like this. Of course, the smart thing to do is to capture one. You run up alongside and everybody jumps over. That's where you get Marines from. So if you capture a trireme, hey, I don't have to build one, right? Costs 1 talent of silver, 13 pounds of silver, to build a trireme, and 1 talent a month to maintain it, right? Scrape the barnacles off, paint it, got to pay the rowers, the Marines, the captain. You get the point? Yep, warfare has always been expensive, even back then. All right, let's talk about these Persian guys. Remember, they kind of have a reputation of being imperial stormtroopers. They run off to fight the Greeks and then they get cut down. Well, there's a little bit more to Persia than that. Let's start way back in 550 BC. Very convenient date there, 550, right in the middle. Well, Cyrus the Great was the king of Persia. And Persia was not always a great empire. It started off as a small little country down near the Gulf, near the Strait of Hormuz. And he had his overlords, the Medes. The Medes are related to the Persians, kind of like cousins, so are the Parthians. But nonetheless, in 550 BC, Cyrus leads a revolt and takes down the Medes, and lo and behold, we have the Persian Empire. And this thing is pretty big. You already know that. And it keeps getting bigger. It goes up into Asia Minor to fight the kingdom of Lydia and conquers that in 546 BC in winter. You know how hard it is to launch a winter campaign in 546 BC through the mountains? Because Cyrus is a good organizer, he's a good leader, and people like Cyrus. Invades Babylonia down there in present-day Iraq, maybe Jordan. 539 BC, takes a while before he conquers that. And the entire Persian Empire is growing. It's huge, it's big. And how does he hold this whole thing together? Well, there's a lot of Persians, a lot of Medes, that helps. But the main reason this thing holds together is tolerance. That's right, Persia takes over. Keep your language. Keep your religion. No human sacrifice, though. We're going to draw a line at that. Exactly. Everything goes on the way it used to. In fact, some people would surrender and join the Persians. All you got to do is pay your taxes and be there if I need you for an army. Standard operating procedure. It's fun to live in Persia. Of course, nobody likes being a slave, but, or even under somebody else. But if you're going to get overrun by a large country, man, hey, take Persia. It's a lot better than the Assyrians, right? Now, he's going to die in 530 BC. He got a tribe called the Massageti out there near Afghanistan. Yeah, something about that place. It never works out for anybody. He dies in battle out there. And here we go. We got the age-old problem of succession. Persia's a monarchy. He's in control. Cyrus, he dies. Next guy up. Who is that usually? Usually it's his son. You're going to see a few names right there. See, Cyrus the Great. How convenient. 550 to 530. Name of the family is the Achaemenid family. So this is the Achaemenid dynasty. And a Persian king wouldn't simply refer to himself as the king of Persia. He's the Persian king of kings. Look at that name over there, Shah-an-Hashad. Even if you don't speak Persian, you see it repeating, right? King of kings. Because when Persia comes to Babylonia, it's not like he destroys the Babylonian monarchy and now you're just king of Persia. No, he's king of Persia, king of Babylonia, king of Lydia, soon going to be Pharaoh of Egypt. Right? When they take over Egypt, no, they're not destroying Egypt. He's just the new guy in charge of Egypt. Pharaoh. Keep the language, keep the religion. Egyptians not big into human sacrifice, so no need to worry about that. But let's, tell them just in case somebody gets nuts. Now, Cyrus is an awesome leader. But here's the problem with a monarchy. The next guy up. Maybe he's a genius. Maybe he's a complete idiot. Well, we get Cambyses. Oh, was this a bad move? Now, Cambyses decides to conquer Egypt. That's what the Persians do, right? In the world empire business. So he conquers Egypt and does a very un-Persian thing, kicking over the throne, declaring the Egyptian religion to be illegal. Cambyses was also a little bit nuts. And as you can tell, he wasn't around very long. And they're going to have all kinds of troubles hanging on to Egypt. He conquers it in 525 BC. 522, he gets called back for a revolt back in Babylonia. Big surprise. He told everybody they can't worship their gods. And on the way back, he kind of has an accident. Not really sure what happened. He went in the tent, said goodnight, and he, died. No one really knows how. No one asked too many questions. So here comes Darius in 522. Ah, that name look familiar? Darius? Exactly, same guy who's going to invade Greece. Now, Darius patches up everything with the Egyptians, and Darius is a great king, believe it or not. He gets bad press because of the whole Greek thing. But Darius is a level-headed, even-tempered man, and he's a very good organizer. He reorganizes the Persian Empire into governors, satraps, and everything runs much smoother. He has a royal road going through the entire empire, kind of like an I-95 kind of thing. That way, trade is easier, communication is easier. He standardizes the weights and measures. Doesn't sound like much, but it's actually very important. 3 feet on the east side is 3 foot on the west side kind of thing. And basically, he's a very good organizer. People like Darius. But, like we said, we're in the world empire business, and it's kind of like being in NFL. I really like that Super Bowl you won 10 years ago, but what you done for me lately? And Darius doesn't have an answer on that front. So he invades Scythia, way up there in the Ukraine, and does it the hard way, crossing over into Bulgaria and all that, and it doesn't work very well. And he comes back defeated, and of course the Greeks in Asia Minor revolted, and he has to put them down. And of course, who was helping the Greeks in Asia Minor? The Athenians. And we know the story from there, don't we? Marathon. After he loses at Marathon, this calm, rational guy Darius totally loses it and decides he's going to build an army so huge that Greeks have absolutely no chance against this thing, right? And even had, remember I told you about the slave detailed to tell him, sire, remember the Athenians, right? Very un-Darius-like behavior, but anyway, he dies in 486 BC. Here comes Xerxes. You know all about Xerxes. Bit of a temper problem, Xerxes. He goes to Greece. You know what happens there. Thermopylae, Salamis, and of course Plataea. So he decides to drop back, and Persia's kind of done expanding. They're just going to sit back and let the money roll in. They're sitting in all the trade routes. I mean, they own basically everything outside of Greece. Got the entire Middle East, Persia, Egypt. Got a trade route going right into India. Sit back, enjoy the ride. 465 BC, Xerxes gets assassinated. He was never very popular, to be honest with you. But hey, Persia's going to be fine. It's a big empire, it's making a lot of money, and they have figured out this succession thing. They're going to hand off the next guy and get a bunch of kings who are, stable. So Persia's going to be okay for a while. Hey, how do we know all this stuff happened? Remember I talked about primary sources and secondary sources? Here are some primary sources. Herodotus and Thucydides, not Herodotus. Herodotus, of course, that's how you spell it, right? Herodotus. And of course, there's Thucydides. Now, Herodotus wrote the histories in 420 BC. It's about, it's a history of the Persian Wars. Turns into a history of the entire world up to that point, right? Now, the remarkable thing about Herodotus is that, hey, his minimal bias. He shows a little bit of bias against the Persians because he's Greek, but he's actually says a lot of good things about the Persians, including Cyrus, and he even wrote that Persians were taught three things: ride straight, shoot straight, and always tell the truth. Now, he doesn't know all the answers, and if he doesn't know an entire story, there's a gap. He has a tendency to kind of fill in the gaps with mythology or the supernatural. So, 90% of what he says you can believe, but there's that 10%, well, I'll even say 15 on occasion, that you're not totally sure, and he's not either, and he kind of fills in the gap. Now, he didn't travel everywhere. He talked about India. He talked about Egypt. He never actually went there. So a lot of stuff you heard is secondhand. It's unverified, even lies. So some people, instead of calling him the father of history, call him the father of lies sometimes. So the father of history, he might have a few gaps in there he's not sure about, so he tries to fill it in a little bit. Now, Thucydides, here's an interesting guy. He's Athenian. And he writes the history of the Peloponnesian War, during the war, when Athens and Sparta get at that. Believe me, it's coming up, don't worry. Now, he's Athenian, and he has his biases, but it's very minimal. It's not propaganda saying the Spartans are evil. He actually seems to admire the Spartans, and of course, a lot of people admire the Spartans. Now, he makes no reference to the supernatural or mythology. Just the facts. That's what he does, just the facts. And he traveled all over Greece during the war, verifying everything he wrote down. And if he doesn't know, he tells you he doesn't know. He fills in the gaps with educated guesses or conjecture and tells you, I'm not completely sure. I saw 12 ships go out, only 8 came back, and nobody was happy. They must have lost 4 ships and lost a battle somewhere. So, if he wasn't there, he knows somebody who was there, and if you can't verify it, at least he tells you, I'm not 100% sure, this is what I think happened. So this is what the study of history is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be with no bias, ideally, but there might be a little bit in there. And of course, we verify everything that happened to get the truth. What's all about, getting the truth. Now, the Peloponnesian War. I don't know where they come up with this first Peloponnesian War and second Peloponnesian War stuff, or even called the Great Peloponnesian War. There's one Peloponnesian War. You see it? 431 BC, 404 BC. That's it. One. End of story. Period. I forgot to put behind BC. Now, before the Persian War, Greece does what it always does. Greek city-states fight each other. It's like being with your family. You get mad, you argue with each other, someone from the outside steps in, boom, you come together, repel the attacker from outside, right? And the minute that guy goes away, you go back to fighting with each other. Well, that's what happens. 465 to 432, the Greek city-states are back to fighting each other again, including Sparta and Athens. Right? They're back to arguing with each other again. And they're headed for a collision. Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BC. What's the cause of it? Any number of reasons. Thucydides himself says he thinks it's because Sparta got scared about the rising power of Athens and decided to preempt it. It might have just been the two biggest guys on the block kind of thing running into each other. You can split it up kind of into different ways, but at the end of the day, just remember 431 BC to 404 BC. Now, when this war breaks loose, remember there's two alliances. Sparta's head of the Peloponnesian League. Corinth and Thebes are the two largest members after Sparta. They people joined the Peloponnesian League and no one ever left. Everyone likes being part of the Peloponnesian League. You got Sparta on your side. Why wouldn't you like it? On the other side, you got the Delian League. Athens running that. Now, this was established after the Persian invasion for the purpose of keeping Persia away. Makes sense. Athens has a great navy. Now, they named it after the island of Delos, which is supposed to be the home of Apollo, hence Delian League. And all the money everybody contributes goes to Athens. Athens uses it to build a fleet and maybe build their own army. After a while, the money starts flowing straight to Athens. Yeah, what's this all about? Delian League starts becoming the Athenian Empire. No one would say this out loud because they want the Athenians coming after them. Well, what kind of a setup is this? It's supposed to be an alliance led by Athens to defeat Persia. And I don't see any Persians on the horizon. And my money's going straight to Athens. They built the Acropolis, by the way, in 447 BC. It looks really nice, but I don't want my money going to that. I wanted to build a fleet to keep the Persians away. And maybe I don't want to be part of this Delian League anymore. And then Athens says, no, you're not allowed to leave. And then people try to leave, and then the Athenians fleet and starts attacking people who try to leave. Oh, wow, this is not a good setup, right? I mean, what's the difference between an Athenian dictatorship and a Persian one? It's still a dictatorship. So people start looking for help to get out of here, and who are you going to look to help from? Well, if you're Greek, you don't want to talk to Persia about that. That's being non-Greek. But hey, there's Sparta over there. And Sparta could take on Athens, couldn't they? Now, to beat the beast, you got to become the beast. They're eventually going to go to war. There's a long, complicated story of how the Peloponnesian War broke loose. It involves Corcyra and Corinth and defensive alliances and economic sanctions against Milos. And, we're not going to get into all of that. We're just going to tell you that Sparta went to war against Athens, and they decided they're just going to invade and destroy Athens. The problem is, Athens been thinking about this for a while, and they build this huge wall around Athens. Now, the Spartans are not very good at siege warfare. Why? Because be a man, go out there and fight toe-to-toe. Athens decides to sit behind their wall. They actually bring everybody in, and they're not coming out, and the Spartans can't get in. And Athens, of course, has the navy bringing food in, so they're just staring at each other. And, of course, the Athenian navy sailing around the edge of the Peloponnese, a raid here, raid there. It's not going to destroy Sparta, but you're starting to wonder, hey, there's a lot of helots that might start getting some weapons here from the Athenians, and who knows what happens back home. Oh, this is going to be tough, Sparta. So the Spartans are trying to fight in the traditional way. The Athenians have the navy. And now they're starting to land people and trying to cause discord among the helots. And at one point, they actually trap some Spartans on a place called Pylos Bacteria. And you ready for this? The Spartan force actually surrenders. Oh my God, the Spartans surrender? Now, they don't end the war. They just have a ceasefire. And that's where Sparta realizes, I got to build a navy. Now, how much money does it take to build a trireme? Right, a talent of silver. How much money does it take to continue maintaining this trireme? Oh, another talent of silver. Well, I need this money from someplace. Where do you get the money from? You ready for this? Sparta gets the money from Persia. Oh my goodness, Persia is lending the Spartans money to fight the Athenians. Persia is more than happy to see Sparta and Athens fight each other. Keep it going forever if they can, right? Now, if Sparta wins, chances are they're not going to come after Persia, but Athens might, because during that ceasefire from 421 BC to 413 BC, Sparta's building a navy. What's Athens up to? There are the walls, right? So if you come after them, they hide behind the walls. There they are today. Hard to find, even in present-day Athens, but they are there. Here's the guy who was leading it. There's a smart man named Pericles. Politician, orator, general, came up with the idea of how just to hold them off. Of course, it didn't work out too well because when he hid behind the wall, he got smallpox and died in 429 BC. So, yeah, best laid plans of mice and men. So, during this ceasefire in 421, look at this. Athens decides to invade Sicily, like this German map. How far is that? That's 800 miles away. And they're actually going past Sparta to attack Sicily. And you're wondering, why are they attacking Sicily? Because the Athenians are trying to get more grain, and this grain goes to the Peloponnese, by the way, more power, more gold, and they're building up their empire. And they're going to take Sicily. Of course, Sicily looks for help from Sparta. There's a few people here fighting. Now, if you're Persia and you see this happening, you're like, wow, if Athens can go 800 miles west What's to keep them from coming, 200 miles east after me? So let's give the Spartans their money to build a navy. Now, if you're a Spartan, who's going to row these boats? Somebody out there yelled helots. Yeah, what makes you think a helot is going to do this voluntarily and you got to force them to do it? Right? Maybe they just run off to Athens. Well, start paying the helots. Where you get the money from? You're getting it from Persia. Persia's going to shovel it out to you, no problem. Keep the Athenians occupied. So helots are now getting freedom by being rowers. Yeah, well, if you're a helot, being a rower on a trireme's an improvement. What does that tell you? So we got people paid. We're building boats. Of course, the first couple of Spartan fleets aren't going to fare too well. Now, in 413, Athens is going to lose their fleet over here in Sicily. It gets destroyed, a good chunk of it. So here comes Sparta. They're back into the war again in 413. Now, Athens still has good sailors. They have good triremes, if not as many as they used to. But here comes Sparta. And the first couple fleets, like I said, aren't going to fare too well. But if you fight a battle and lose, what do? Right? You learn. And they're learning. The Athenians are beating them, but the Spartans are surviving and learning how to fight out on the water. And Athens can't replace their ships. They lose 1, 2 ships. That's it. They're done. No more ships to replace that. Whereas Sparta, they're getting money from Persia. And they're just building more ships. Plenty of helots, lots of people, and you got enough hoplites to be Marines. Now let's go up here and put a siege on Athens while we're at it. Hey, we start cutting off the grain, hopping here between the islands. Athens starts to get weaker. Of course, Athens doesn't go down easy. It's going to be a long, hard fight, 403 to 404 BC. But in the end, they're finally going to defeat Athens. Athens goes down for the count in 404 BC. And now Sparta, once again, is the head of all Greece. And here we go again, man. Athens became dictatorial after a great victory. Sparta is going to become dictatorial. Oh my goodness, what is wrong with you, Sparta? 404 to 371 BC. The people who liberate Sparta now the Spartans who liberate Greece now become the hegemons of Greece. Sparta gets dictatorial. They become overlords of everybody. Garrisons demanding money. But you see, here's the problem. They're not really that well suited for the job. First of all, you just fought a 27-year war with Athens. You're spread out. Your army's not as big because a lot of people got killed. Their economy, they're not that great to begin with because, it was Sparta. They have demographic problems. Their country is getting bigger, but the army's getting smaller. Remember what you have to be a Spartan warrior? Got to be able to feed 3 people for 10 days. 10 days? 10 people for 3 days. There we are. And you've made enemies all over. Remember Assyria making enemies all over? Got so many Spartans. You spread out all over Greece. You're making enemies all over the place. And then the king of Sparta, Agesilaus, for some insane reason, decides to attack Persia. It's not like you can really conquer Persia, And Persia, instead of, they don't always like to fight Spartans. Instead of fighting Sparta, they're going to bribe Thebes, Corinth, Argos, other Greek city-states. And you ready for this? Athens, to fight against Sparta. Didn't you guys here fight against Athens for 27 years, allied to Sparta? Now you're fighting alongside Athens to defeat Sparta with Persian money. Call this the Corinthian War, 396 to 387 BC. I have no idea if there's any relation with Corinthian leather. Everyone always asks me that. Well, here's the country that's going to defeat Sparta, Thebes. It's not going to be easy, but Thebes is going to finally beat Sparta. And how they beat them? Because they fight against the Spartans, they lose, and guess what? You fight a battle, lose, what happens? You learn. And here they are, redesign the whole phalanx. Greek phalanx, 8 people deep, it runs forward. Spartan phalanx, divided into squads, can move many different directions. Here comes the Theban phalanx. There's your friend Epaminondas. This is a strange little guy who is going to lead Thebes to victory over Sparta. Here's your Theban hoplite. What do you notice is different? Spear looks longer, looks about 8 feet there. Look at this, not as much armor. Wear the boots instead. this club. It's the club of Hercules, right? That's how you know he's Theban. Different kind of helmet. Yeah, they're going to go toe-to-toe with the Spartans, and after a while they've learned how to fight. And the Theban phalanx is a little bit different. Yeah, it's 8 people deep on the left side. On the right side, it's 50 people deep. 50 people pushing forward against maybe 4 to 6 Spartans. Even Spartans can't hold that thing back, and you don't know it because you're on ground level and you can't see it. So at Battle of Leuctra, you've heard about that before, on the 4th of July, 371 BC, Thebes defeats Sparta. It's the end of the Spartan hegemony. Now we got the Theban hegemony. It's only there for 9 years. What happened here? Well, Epaminondas leads Thebes to victory over Sparta at the Battle of Leuctra. 4th of July, how about that? 371 BC. Now, Epaminondas, instead of just defeating Sparta, has to go into Sparta. Everyone says, are you crazy? He says, probably, but I'm right, because if he just sits back, you know Spartan's going to send another army after you, right? So he decides to go into the lair of the beast to fight the Spartans on their home ground. No one's ever done that before. Welcome to the world of Epaminondas. Invades Sparta 4 times in the 360s. Liberates Messina. Remember where the Helots live? And suddenly Sparta's never going to be the same. He doesn't destroy Sparta. He weakens Sparta. He cuts it in half. Liberates the Helots. Sparta is still somebody to reckon with, but it's not what it used to be, right? Kind of like what the New England Patriots hopefully will turn into a decade from now. I don't know, don't think they're slowing down yet, does it? Epaminondas will die at the Battle of Mantinea in 362 BC. The Spartans finally get him. And Thebes decides to go back to being good old Thebes. Right? Thebes isn't going to push anybody around. They've had their run for 9 years. They decided to head it back to Thebes. Whoever wants to be hegemon of Greece, welcome to it. Thebes now doesn't want the job. They hand it off. So who's going to show up next? Because you know there's always somebody else out there looking around, right? Here we are. It's Family Photo Day at Giant Eagle. Buy one, get one free. Limited time only. Here's the family. Here's Philip. Philip of Macedonia. Oh, looks like Val Kilmer a little bit, doesn't he? Here we are, his wife Olympia. Likes to sleep in bed with snakes. Kind of a scary lady. And here's their son. You may have heard of this guy. Alexander, the greatest student of Aristotle. That's right. Here comes Macedonia now. Athens, Sparta, Thebes for a while. Thebes hands off to anybody who wants it. And guess who picks up the baton? That's right. It's going to be Macedonia. And look at this Macedonian phalanx. You don't think they've been watching everything that's happening? Look at this horrifying thing. The number you need to know is 16. 16-foot spears. 16 men across, 16 men deep, even longer on occasion. 16 across, 16 deep, 16-foot spears. Oh my God, how do you stop something like this? 10 points of iron aimed right at your face. Here's a better view. Yeah, how do you run past something like this? You don't. You can't dive under it. You're going to die. You can't jump over it. You run right at it. Nothing, you're going to get impaled. Maybe if I run along the sides. Yeah, you could try that, but they have cavalry on the sides. Hey, look at this, flat ground. See, the reason this thing developed the way it did, they're watching Thebes, obviously, and Macedonia, being up in northern Greece, there's another view of it. You try to dive under it. Oops.